because there's this thing that happens in the brain where you have motor on one side and sensory on the other. So you can see it in action with me. I'm sure if I lived near a medical school, they'd want to be seeing me. So this side, I have motor, but I don't have sensory. So from C4 down, I don't feel hot or cold, sharp or dull. On this side, I have hypersensitivity, spasticity, that's what this is, and lack of mobility on this side. So I have my brace over here. Sometimes I get tired of wearing it, but then after my accident, I developed a spinal cord syrinx, which is a fluid-filled cyst in the middle of my spinal cord that causes burning nerve pain from the neck down. And that just about took me out of the game. And that was a really super difficult time. And I went through, this is just a little clip of me learning how to walk and how to function. Nothing from the neck down worked, so any function that you see now I've had to work really hard for. But you know, we all have this paradigm, and I didn't go into this morning. We all have this paradigm when we have something acute, like when we have an injury like this, we expect that we're going to have pain, and we expect that it's going to diminish. And that isn't the way it happens for most of us that have chronic pain. Something goes wrong, and instead of the pain diminishing, we have what's called central sensitization, where the pain just gets higher and higher and higher. And we need more and more and more meds to turn that down. And by the time the meds turn it down for me at all, I'm not functioning. I am laying in a recliner doing nothing. I'm crying all the time. I can't read. I can't concentrate. I can't talk to my husband. It was a really, really difficult time. So what I know for a fact is that there's lots of people that suffer with chronic pain. You can have chronic pain and not suffer, and I just want to say that. I have chronic pain. I said this morning. It doesn't have me anymore. It used to, but at this point, it's my normal. There's no fear involved in my pain anymore. Sometimes if I get some new thing, then I go into the what's going on, because pain is a signal. It's a warning signal. It's important until it isn't. And that's what happens when we have chronic pain. Sometimes the pain signals keep going after the tissue has healed. Sometimes we have things that we're just going to have. There's no cure for them. So we have to then find the solutions. And that's what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about neuroplasticity. And that's a really big word, and all it means is that the brain has the ability to adapt to new information and experiences by changing its structure, function, or chemistry. So that sounds like a really big fancy word, but you know what we used to think is what we had in our brain was what we have. But now we know that you can teach old dogs new tricks, that you can learn something new, and the more we focus on it, the easier it becomes. We also know that pain is experienced in the brain. I will just tell you that it doesn't matter where it is on your body, it's all processed in your brain. Did you guys know that if you didn't have a brain, you wouldn't have pain? Yeah, you wouldn't have other things either. Okay, that was a trick question. But all pain 100% of the time is processed in the brain. And this is good news. It doesn't mean that we don't have something real. I want to state right from the beginning here, I'm never saying that if you have pain, you're making it up, or it's all in your head, or anything like that, because your pain is real. But that doesn't negate the fact that it's all processed in the brain. I remember a Christmas when my husband and my brother-in-law were new brother-in-laws. That was a lot of years ago. And we went to my mom and dad's for Christmas, and there wasn't a lot to do, and so they learned how to juggle. And when they first started learning how to juggle, it was like, the balls were going all over the place, and it was just a, mess. By the end of that 2 weeks, my poor parents, now that I think about it, they really knew how to juggle well. They could not only juggle alone, they were passing things to each other, and, it was going all over. So what happened between the beginning of that vacation and the end? Repetition and focus. Anybody remember teaching a 16-year-old new driver how to drive? How's that? Not so fun. So, where's the gas? Where's the brake? Stop, Mom, you're always yelling at me. Okay, so it's kind of fresh in my memory. But it is a really difficult thing. But how is it after you've been driving for a while? How is driving? Yeah, you get somewhere and you're just like, how'd I get here? Was I really paying attention? Did I go through, was all the lights green? Because, you're kind of on autopilot. Well, that's what happens when we have pain. Pain is loud, and it's easy to practice. It's really easy to practice. It's way easier to practice than a new language or juggling or anything like that, because it's ever present. And once you have chronic pain, everybody's asking you about it. Am I right? Right? Everybody. How's your pain? And they all have that concerned look on their face. Tell me about your pain. I have to tell you, nobody asks me anymore, because most people just assume I don't. They're wrong, but so it's something that as we practice it, we get better and better and better at it. Dr. Michael Moskowitz has these wonderful graphics that he has made. These are the 9 areas of the conscious brain that process pain. Can you see all those little yellow areas? Now watch that. Watch what happens when we focus on pain. I'm going to do that again because I like that. So those areas are normally supposed to be 5% of the cells in those 9 areas of the brain. Those 5% of the nerve cells are normally dedicated to pain processing. But what happens when we have chronic pain is this can expand to up to 25% of the cells in those 9 areas. The process of repetition, just like you ladies just said. That's what we do with juggling. That's what we do with driving, learning a different language, learning pain. The process of repetition reinforces the strengthening of brain pathways. And this causes changes in the brain. So what do we do about that? Well, I love this quote. It may only be wonderful to me, but I want to read it to you. The notion of brain plasticity is fundamental to new developments in pain management. There is recognition that the same neuronal changeability that contributes to the persistence of pain could potentially allow its resolution. Evidence suggests that focused attention can increase neuronal plasticity and hence be used to positively reprogram brain pathways. For somebody that suffered with chronic pain, this is just the best news in the whole world. It means in the same way that we can learn a language and we can learn how to juggle, we can also and we can learn pain, that the opposite can be true. By focusing, remember the mirror box this morning? By focusing on what is whole and what is healthy and what is good and what is right, we can undo what has been done in our brain with, I guess this was kind of, with the focus on chronic pain. Is this good news to anybody but me? You guys are all sitting there like, oh, this is boring. No, I'm just giving you a bad time. But this is so exciting, and this is something that we've known for very long. This is new in the last 15 years. The ability to reprogram brain pathways is really, really exciting. So before I go any further, do we have any questions or any comments on any of this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're focus on what is good, then you forget the pain? I don't understand.
Okay, so her question was, so when you focus on something good, you forget your pain. Can anybody in here that has pain tell me of a time in your life, in your day, in your week when you don't notice the pain? Can anybody? When you're busy. Okay, what were you going to say?
Working out.
When you're working out. Oh, that's really good. We're going to talk about that in a little while. Anything else? Yeah.
I'm a therapist, and I never notice it when I'm with another client because I'm focused on them.
Okay, so she's a therapist and she doesn't notice it when she's with a client because she's working with them. So is the tissue damage any different? Okay, well, there's my point.
What about when you're sleeping?
What about when you're sleeping?
You can't
What-
go to sleep.
Oh, I'm going to talk all about sleep. Sleep is a really, really important thing. If you're going to use your brain to manage your pain, you have to figure sleep out. And I have a whole section on it today. It's really, really important. And sleep was one of those things that was really, really difficult for me. I would take a large handful of pills to go to sleep. And if I didn't get to the bed before the pills took effect, my husband would have to walk me into the bed. And then I would wake up too early, like 2 o'clock in the morning, and wasn't able to sleep for 3 or 4 hours because of the pain. And then I'd go to sleep 5 or 6 in the morning, wake up, noon, everybody was gone. My husband and family would come home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and find me still in my bathrobe with my hair standing on end. So that was my life. So I'll talk all about sleep, because that's a really important point. So did that answer your question? Any other comments or questions about neuroplasticity? So we know that pain is experienced in the brain. The brain learns pain just like we learn how to drive. The longer we've been negative, angry, and passive, the more brain change we will need to make. Because of the plasticity in our brain, everything is reversible. In the same way that muscles and joints can be made more healthy and robust, so too can the homunculus arrangements in your brain. This is written by 2 physical therapists in Australia. This is from a book called Explain Pain. If anybody would like a really good resource, it's expensive. It's like a $100 book, but it's really good. Anything they have on the internet as well. They have some videos on YouTube. So those words, negative, angry, and passive, those were words that really described me during the time that I was suffering with chronic pain. Anybody here who is a provider to people with chronic pain would agree with that description for most people with chronic pain, am I right? Yeah. We're not a very fun group of people. Because, the bottom line is that we have expected that there would be an answer. When we have acute pain, there are other people that help us with what we need. When you break your neck, you're taken to the hospital, and there's a whole team of people that are there, and they're putting you all back together, and they're fusing the bones back together, and there's this group of surgeons, and then you have occupational therapists and physical therapists and respiratory therapists, and during that time everybody is working really, really hard, and then you get to this place where you're healed and you still have the pain, and you expect the same thing. You expect that somebody's going to have a pill, a surgery, a procedure, an injection, something. Somebody has got to cure me. And when that doesn't happen, we become negative, angry, and passive. Well, fine. Actually, maybe we're passive to begin with because we have been told that the answers are somewhere else, that somebody is going to fix this for me. But the good news is, because of the plasticity in our brain, everything is reversible. Such good news. Dr. John Rady, he's at Harvard. He's written a book called The User's Guide to the Brain. He says, neuronal plasticity happens daily. Connections are continually strengthened or weakened. a minute bit at a time as sensory input changes owing to external stimuli. The perception of pain varies greatly from one individual to another because it is influenced by a number of psychological factors, including culture. Not everyone can walk on hot coals. Previous life experiences and current mental status. So we had mentioned here that when we have a patient that we're working with, we're not able to think about the pain. Any other examples? Can anybody think of, yeah?
When you've been at work, you may be working real hard and you come home. You don't feel anything at work. When you get home, it's like,
Okay. So your brain was busy doing other things, and you sit down, and all of a sudden that's all that's going up through that gate is the pain signals. So is there any difference between what was going on before? Or there's an example that I like that I've seen happen many times with my own kids, where you're at a birthday party with a group of kids, and your little girl, she's running pell-mell with everybody else, and she falls and she skins her knee, and she looks down at it, and everybody else keeps running, so she keeps running. They get to the end of the race, and she looks down, and there's blood trickling down there, and she, whines a little bit, and you take her over to the bathroom, you clean it all up, and she's fine the whole rest of the day until when? Till bedtime. Yeah, till bedtime. Oh, my knee hurts. Well, there really is no difference. There's no difference in the tissue damage. There's no difference in the amount of pain signals going up to the brain. The difference is what she's thinking about. And she's been busy all day, so what do moms do? Can you guys think of some things that you do when a kid has that happening? Kiss them and make it better. Sometimes you'll maybe rub above it, or, rub an arm or put a Band-Aid on it, or sing a song, read a story. All of those things, that one instinctual thing that we do where we rub somewhere else. I don't know if any of you have ever done that, but, basically what that's doing is that's busying the mind with something else. And so that's why it works. So our perception of pain varies greatly from one individual to another. So I want you guys to tell me, if you can tell me what causes all of these different things: increased heart rate, elevated blood sugar, suppressed immune system, increased breathing rate, a rise in blood pressure, stomach acid secretion, constricted blood vessels, increased muscle tension. Now, I'm looking for one answer. If you, it's not pain. It is related to adrenaline. Yeah. Anxiety. Fear. Okay. So, what I want, my one word is encompassed into all of these, and that is thoughts. Our thoughts. When you have, and when I was in the middle of my pain, going through the most difficult time, the thought I would have all the time, and I'd say it out loud, is, I can't stand this pain one more second. So when I have that thought, or when I say those words, my brain releases adrenaline, I'm having a stress response, and it increases my heart rate, it elevates my blood sugar, it suppresses my immune system, increases my breathing rate, a rise in blood pressure, stomach acid secretion, constricted blood vessels, and increased muscle tension. So guess what comes after this? More pain. That's exactly right. So we're on this cycle, and we have this cycle going on, and it really doesn't end until we make a decision to make it end. Because the pain is obviously going to cause negative thoughts. I mean, if, I know that we all, everybody in this room most likely has pain. And so when you have pain, it causes fear. When we have fear, it causes the emotional response, the negativity, and all of that causes the adrenaline, and that all causes more pain. So we get this lovely cycle going on. And we're really fun to live with, too. It's really nice to live with somebody who's I still remember the look on my husband's face all the time. There's something that I forgot to tell you guys this morning I was going to mention. My husband's the pastor at Mount Ellis Academy, and we've been married for 31 years. And when I had my accident and wasn't able to breathe on my own, I told him, I said, my neck is broken. You don't want me like this. This is going to be a miserable life. And he just said, I love you from the neck up. I want you to keep breathing. And so that's the guy he is. And so then imagine what it feels like to live with somebody who's crying all the time, who is saying, I can't stand to live like this anymore. And I probably would have never gone through with suicide, but even mentioning it in front of a family member, even if it's in sideways ways. I'm not that, I'm not a suicidal type of person, but this can just bring you to that. And then living with that, having a spouse that has to live knowing that this person isn't sleeping at night, she's not having any life, we're all going off doing fun things with the kids, and she's staying home crying all the time. So anyway, so these kind of thoughts affect everybody, especially the person with pain, but it really spreads deeper than that, right? So I am bringing us to this point. What I feel we need, those of us with chronic pain, is a paradigm shift. And I've hinted toward this several times, but I'm going to say it. So where we start out is cure me. I want a pill, a surgery, a procedure. I want something to take away this pain. My doctor sent me to this functional restoration program in California, and I thought I was going there to have a spinal cord stimulator put in. It is a surgical procedure, and I thought I was going there, and that was going to take away all my pain. And my first meeting with the doctor, he said, would you be willing to try our program first? Now, I want to just say it's a pretty good doctor to do that, because he's the one that would be putting in the spinal cord stimulator and would make quite a lot of money doing that. But he asked me if I'd be willing to just go through their program. And my mouth said yes, but my brain said, how in the world is going through your program going to do anything for my real pain? I don't just have, and then fill in the blank, I have central nerve pain. It's very serious. And, I have to have an answer for this. And I went back to my hotel that night, and my husband called, and he said, how did it go today? When are you having your spinal cord stimulator? And I said, well, Dr. Brose wants me to go through the program first. And, he didn't tell me till several years later, but he was really angry. He was really angry because he was right here with me. He was right here with me. Find this woman a cure. We don't want to have to spend the rest of our life like this. Okay, so while I was there, I learned that pain is an experience, and I did a lot of accepting. I've done lots more accepting since then. But there's something real that happens in our mind and our body when we accept something. There is a relaxation or something, I don't know. But when we come to the place where we stop fighting, it's like we're floating instead. Instead of drowning, we're floating, and everything is okay. So the place that I was at was I was suffering to I'm living. I have a lot of family members that when they work with us, when their family member starts working with us, they say, are you telling me that you're expecting him to give up? You're asking him to give up? We've worked so hard to try to find a cure, and now you're telling him to give up. And my answer is that someday there might be a cure for spinal cord stimulator, or for a spinal cord syrinx. Someday there might be a cure for low back pain. Someday there might be a cure for CRPS or rheumatoid arthritis or whatever it is that we have, fibromyalgia. But in the meantime, I'm going to live. I have a lot of friends, and if there is a cure for spinal cord syrinxes, I will get phone calls all day that first day. I don't need to worry my life. I don't need to worry myself over trying to stir up something for what I have. I don't need to spend the rest of my life in a place of fear and anxiety. I can live. And that's a pretty good thing. So the paradigm shift goes from pain as a sensation to pain as an experience. And it's an experience that I get to have control over. Now, when we have acute pain, it's important for us to pay attention to the sensation. And even when we have something that's chronic, like I have, I do have to pay attention, especially to my right side. Because if I get something on my right side going on and I don't pay attention to it, then I get something called Autonomic Dysreflexia, which makes my blood pressure go up to 220 over 180. Like 3 weeks ago, I spent a couple days in the hospital. So I do have to pay attention to pain signals. But once that I know that this is something chronic and this is not causing harm, and I let go of all the fear, I can say, what kind of experience do I want to have from here on out? So any comments or questions before we go on? I don't want to just talk the whole time.
So you're saying by affirming, like, cure me, I accept my pain, that's reprogramming the brain? By accepting that?
By accepting it, yes.
Okay.
By anything we do that's like the mirror box, where we're looking at what's right and what's healthy and what's good and what's whole, is going to help us reprogram our brain.
Okay.
I'm not an expert at brain reprogramming, but what I do know is that what you don't use, you lose. Did anybody in here learn a language in high school and hasn't used it since? Yeah, how is it? No good. Okay, so it kind of makes my point. That the Bible says that what a man looketh at, so is he. That's not exactly the. Yeah. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And so as we turn those negative thoughts, most of us are programmed. You wake up in the morning, okay, how is my pain? It's just, I have to just tell you guys that when I wake up, because I have this spasticity on this side, not on this side, I can hardly walk when I wake up in the morning. Walking, I have to stand for a little while and get things unkinked, and then I have to go in and get on my hiking boots, and I have to put my brace on and get my hiking stick and my little hiking puppy, and I have to get in the car and I have to go to the closest mountain and I have to get all this moving. And every day except when I'm in flat places. I just spent a week and a half in Walla Walla. I can't walk fast enough on a flat to get my heart rate up. So I live in Bozeman, Montana, so I have lots of nice places to hike. But how I used to wake up is, just thinking about it and ruminate on it and being angry because nobody could find an answer and so when you turn that around, wow, brand new day, what am I going to get to do today? And what do I have to do to really turn things around for myself?
When you say you live with pain as an experience, now do you actually have the pain or are you just ignoring it?
No, I have it.
Okay.
I have it.
Well, I was kind of, what is the experience then?
I know. It's
To define that.
yeah. Yeah, I still have the same Syrinx. I just, my focus is just not on it. I'm running a company, and I have like 25 employees, and I'm speaking all over the nation, and I'm busy doing other things. I don't really have time to focus on it. You know, every once in a while I land myself in the hospital for a couple days. I fall quite a bit, and so so far I haven't broken anything, but I mean, you know, they're just things that come with it, you know. But it's just really not my focus. And so when it's the worst, if I'm paying attention, it's the worst when I'm tired. I have you'll notice as the day goes on, I'm pretty fresh and good in the morning, halfway okay this time of day. By this evening, I'll have a hard time forming sentences. And it's just, I'm managing a lot all day long. And so it takes a lot of energy. But with practice, you know, it's not something that came all at once.
So with you talking about the pain that you experience, are you focusing on it?
No, I'm not.
Or you got it out there?
Yeah. She asked when I'm talking about it, am I focusing on it? Not unless you were to say on a scale of 1 to 10 and make me think about it. And I was in the hospital for 3 days 2 summers ago, and I was having some chest pain that turned out it was related to some physical therapy they'd been doing on this side. And I was having pain that was radiating down my chest. And so about 3 times a day, maybe it was 5 times a day, they were coming into my room on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your pain? And every day it was, you know, I had to think about it. It was about a 7 or 8. And what I discovered while I was in the hospital during those days was that's about what it is all the time. But I'm not focusing on it. So it's just there. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Am I clear as mud? Yes.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
There's many different types of pain. I've got 3 categories here that if you could just kind of summarize it a little for us.
Yeah.
One would be a chemical causing pain. Another would be a psychological. Another would be a physiological. And
What would be an example of chemical, like a?
well, the reverse of chemical would be medication.
Okay.
A lot of people take pain medicine. I have a sister that does that all the time, and she's totally maxed out all the time.
Yeah.
And then she gets into the psychological place where she's got to have just a little bit more. And once she gets that, if the doctor can go and do it legally, then he's putting his license on the line because he knows that a little more would do her from the psychological part of the thing. And so.
Well, we have states. We have a state right now where they're losing as many as 17 people in one day, in one town. And they just stop breathing. You know, you get the levels so high, the medication so high that people just stop breathing.
Yep.
And, you know, I guess what I would say, you know, I'm not an expert on any of those, but what I would say is a lot of us have a lot of different kinds of pain all mixed in. And what I have found is we've taken very careful data on each person when they start at 6 months and at 1 year, and we've just published in a journal, which is really exciting, a preliminary study. And one thing that we know is that the majority of people that have long-term chronic pain, once the fear goes down, once the fear avoidance goes down, and once the negative affect goes down, we see a huge rise in functionality.
Probably in the psychological area of the 3 that we were talking about.
Yeah, and psychological, when you think about it, you know, people who, has anybody in here ever heard of the ACE score, Adverse Childhood Experiences? People that have high adverse childhood experiences have more pain. You know, like if you're abused as a child, then you're, I think, like 7 times more likely to have chronic pain in adulthood. That's just real scary. You don't have to, or you can, that doesn't mean that everybody who has chronic pain has had adverse childhood experiences, but you're much more likely. So it's all mixed together. And then you get everybody's opinions about pain, including providers. I've had clients like the one I told you about this morning who are told, don't move, there's a metal rod in your back, and if you move just the wrong way, you're going to be permanently paralyzed. Well, that guy had so much fear that he was laying in bed for 17 years. And that might have been something that was true right at the beginning, that he needed to be careful for 6 weeks or something, but and I can't say that it wasn't explained to him. In all fairness, a lot of times, most of us should be taking somebody that's clear-minded with us to the doctor with us in order to really hear the whole message, because when you're medicated, it's really hard to really know what you're supposed to be doing. But yeah, it's all mixed in, the psychological and the pain, and it's very much very connected. So did I answer your question? Okay. Yeah.
They say laughter is the best medicine. What do you have to say about mood and pain?
Mood and pain?
Mood.
Well, laughter is, humor is one of the, I have a whole year's curriculum, and humor is one of our lessons, and I think humor is a great way to deal with life. You just can't be laughing all day, but, I can't be hiking all day either, so. Yeah, Teddy.
I wonder if maybe another way of looking at the difference between sensation and experience is sensation is that focus, like you focus on the sun.
Yeah.
Experience is more awareness, where you know the sun is out there, but you're not looking right at it. Is that kind of the idea of the difference between the two?
Well, I think how I would kind of define sensation is, when you have something acute, like say you stick your arm with a knife and that you have that pain sensation. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. So that heals up, but you still have the pain. And that's what happens with chronic pain. You still have that loop that's going between your injury to your brain, but it's healed. And yeah.
I had an experience that kind of relates to that. I had carpal tunnel surgery, and they only numbed the shoulder on down. And they put my hand right here. I could see my hand right here. I was not completely out. And then they put the cover so I could not see my hand. But way over here, they had this rubber arm from a doll or something that was flopping around. But that wasn't my arm, because I could feel it right here on my chest. And so I think, I think that goes to the brain and our sensation. I felt the sensation of my hand. My brain knew that it was over there, but
Yeah, things get a little messy when they start giving you those medications. and so the experience part of it is I get to choose what my experience is going to be. And so I can have a fearful, terrible, horrible, it's called catastrophizing. I can catastrophize, and I can't stand this pain one more second. Or, is that really true? Is that the truth? Can I not stand this pain one more second, or have I been living with it for 10 years? Yeah, I can live with it. And I can live with it, and I can have a good life with it. And I think that's the paradigm shift. I think some of us get stuck in the anatomy, and it's this one thing, and if this one thing was fixed, we have a young man right now that has had 14 surgeries. He's had his tailbone removed. He's on a morphine pump, and he lives in his mom's basement, and he's 31 years old. And so I don't know who those people are that just keep doing surgeries like that, but he has that focus on that one place that's hurting. And if he could, and what he did to turn things around was to start to normalize that.